I'll call the meeting to order. Do a roll call.
All right.
From myself is Ty Trauber. To my left,
Amy Solberg, board staff.
guess it'd be my right. But
Okay.
Pat Abney.
Tyler Andrews.
Jillian Inglis.
Barbara Jones.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. We have an agenda before us. I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
So then,
Have a
for the
second?
record, you should say the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Making sure we're all on the same game page.
Okay.
So, motion passes. The agenda has been approved. We have. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from the previous meeting?
So if you look in your binders under 4, pink tab, yeah.
Do I need an oath of office?
We'll get. Yeah.
Right here.
That'll be in the old business. If there's no objections, I move to approve meeting minutes from last meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I think there's some argument whether Pat can vote because she wasn't at the meeting to approve the minutes. I think
Okay.
that, I think
I
there's.
didn't vote.
That's right, so.
Okay. So meetings minutes from last month's meeting have been approved. Go through the old business and defer to Barbara.
All right, so we have some oaths of office for you. So I've got Pat's and Tyler's, all right? And
Well.
if you would like, please stand and I will administer your oaths.
All right.
Okay, raise your right hand. And you can state after me. I solemnly swear or affirm
I solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the Charter of the Municipality of Anchorage,
the Charter of the Municipality of Anchorage,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of Employee Relations Board Member
the duties of Employee Relations Board member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And then if you would please sign the oath forms in front of you. And Ty, I have yours, but we're going to do it on fancy paper. And then if you would just. And your date was 8/31.
8/31. Thank you. First of August.
Today is 12th, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you. I'll have to remember to bring writing utensils next time.
Oh, we can always provide you with writing utensils if you'd like one.
So as we've gone through the old business, I move that we go on to new business. And the first order of new business is to elect the chair and vice chair.
And so typically with that, the executive officer would take nominations unless there are volunteers. And if I could, I would open the floor to nominations for chair or volunteers.
And then there was silence. Actually, I'll volunteer. I have no problem doing this.
All right.
I'll be a vice chair if you'd like.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. To please vote by saying aye if you are in favor of Ty as chair and Pat as vice chair.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Excellent.
So it is approved. Congratulations.
Yay. Last name.
Trauber. Sorry. New business, continuing on new business, subsection B, financial disclosure forms.
So are there financial disclosure forms in your
Yeah,
packets?
so in the packet, it's going to be under 6B. Excuse me.
And so typically your
You've already
financial
done that.
disclosure is going to, you just need to fill it out. And so Ty, you must have done yours at the last one.
Correct.
At the last meeting. And so typically, unless you have worked for the city or are on another board of commission or have some contract with them, you're going to have none. Most of our board and commissioners.
I think I'm on another salaries and emoluments.
Well, that is good news to me. I haven't gotten that notice, but we staff that one too, and we're short people, so I'm very glad to hear that.
Okay.
But I don't think that there's you still don't have a contract with the municipality, so
No.
I think you're good. And those forms need to be turned into the clerk's office within 30 days of, technically, of your appointment, but so 30 days, if you could just turn those in even by the time we're done today, that would be great, or after our meeting.
These are sometimes easier than the state.
Good. So I think while they're filling out those forms, you could probably move on.
I can go into, okay. For expediency, we'll move on to new business, Part C, update on the plumber and pipe fitters, Local 367, and the MOA mediation. As of last meeting, those that were here for the board voted to abstain from objecting to the plumbers and pipe fitters and the plumbers pipe fitters union and MOA going to mediation for their contract negotiations. It passed. And is there a update to that, other than that it's going in the middle of October?
I'm going to make just a tiny correction, because I think abstain means something a little bit different. You guys non-objected.
Oh, non-objected.
Non-objected. So just a little bit different.
Okay.
Abstain would mean you didn't vote. So.
Correct.
So anyway, non-objected to the entry of mediation, and I think Joanne was going to give the update.
So, just like at the last board meeting, we talked about how they were going to go into mediation. So they did meet. They actually met today. I do not know the results yet, or if they're making progress, but they did meet today. That's the update.
Excellent.
And I can also throw in, we started negotiations with IBW, MLP, and Teamsters.
I'm sorry, IBEW and who?
And Teamsters. So that would be your bus drivers and some of the people over at Solid Waste Services and the IBW MLP contract. So mostly MLP employees and a little bit over at facilities and in the building department there.
The electricians and stuff. Okay. Will we receive future updates on that mediation, or is this just a one-time that it's gone
I don't
forward?
know. This is all new to me too. So I'm just going to be honest. I don't know. But yes, we probably should just kind of let you know that they've ended mediation, or if they're continuing in mediation, and we can certainly do that.
Okay, appreciate that. Last one under new business is section D, personal rule changes and proposed changes to the Employee Relations Board.
Darn it. I printed out the personnel rules changes, and I can run upstairs and get them before I leave. But we did two things recently. One, we we changed portions, just a small section of the personnel rules that allows, when we calculated our overtime, you know, it was typical. At the end of the 40-week, it was overtime. 40-hour week, it's overtime for regular non-represented employees. And there were those rare occasions where they would get overtime, but had not worked 80 hours in a 2-week period. And because of the way the personnel rules were written, it didn't allow them to, one, get their full leave accrual, even though they may have worked 80 hours in addition with their overtime. So we just made it standard language that if they worked 80 hours, they basically got their full leave accrual. So that was a very simple personnel rules change, and I can go up right after this and get a copy for you if you like. That passed. And then we also, I don't know if you know, in the past, the Supreme Court said that we had to provide medical benefits to same-sex domestic partners. Well, since then, we're now same-sex domestic partners and now permitted to get married. So we have changed the personnel rules. And so effective January 1, in order to get medical benefits, you would have to be a spouse. So very simple changes there. We are also working on updating our personnel rules in general, because they haven't been updated for a while. And also we are looking at our drug policies. We are thinking about taking portions of it out of code and placing it into a policy and procedure. And we want to update it to reflect current laws and practices of what's going on.
So, under this, do you just notice us of those changes, or do we have a role in approving or advice or consent? Or
No, there is not a role with this board in that. And I don't know all of the roles yet of the board. And so because I don't normally deal with this board at all. And so I just wanted to make sure you guys knew what was going on, since you are an employee relations board, and you never know when you might end up with something through your through the collective bargaining agreements when they come in appeal or claim an unfair labor practice or something of that nature. So normally, no, this board does not have a consent on that. You can certainly go and testify or even provide comment to the assembly, I'm sure. But we have a Human Resources Board and we have a Personnel Rules Committee that both review and take a look at what we're doing and provide comment if they want to.
Thank you.
Do we have a set of those policies or anything?
I'm actually
The PMPs?
the PMPs.
Mm.
No, we have them online, but the actual drug policy is currently in code, and we can certainly give you a copy of it if you want.
Well,
But what I'm going to give you, what I was planning to hand out today, is the board, what the board does.
Okay.
Your code as it relates to the board. I believe I have all the right parts. Which then makes me move into the next part, is that we are looking to update this. And so Anchorage Municipal Code 370. Now, if you followed AO 37 at all, it became very controversial over the last couple of years. But for the last couple of years, of course, we weren't permitted to touch the code at all. But we wanted to update this because we found that this board's jurisdiction falls under Anchorage Municipal Code of Regulations and Anchorage Municipal Code, and we found there were different parts and pieces, and so we thought, so Deanna is working on this, but we're going to combine them and update them. But she wanted me, and like for example, there's even code in here about when you meet, what time you meet, and where you meet.
oh my.
You're supposed to meet on Fridays at 9 a.m. So it was fascinating to look at. So Dee Ennis is actually working on that, and she was a little confused, and I can hand this out to you, and you guys can look at this during your free time in the evenings. It can be rather lengthy.
Thank you.
And so we wanted to combine them, but really, we want to update, of course, how the meetings, your meetings. But you also, I don't know if you know this, but you cover whenever a bargaining unit wants to be created for petitions to become a bargaining unit. And Dee was like, I think we should take that out of code. And I said, I don't think we should take it out of code, even though this board doesn't usually get this anymore, because most of the bargaining units in the municipality here have been created. We've only had a bargaining unit decertified, and that was in a few years, it's probably been 5 or 6, maybe 7, maybe 10, which was the machinist. And they decertified for a year, and then they then did another election, and they became what we call the IBEW technicians. And that's why you might hear us say we have ML&P, IBEW, and then we have IBEW technicians, which are mainly your fleet maintenance guys and your facility maintenance people signed up under IBEW. And so basically, we believe the bargaining units have been established, but I advise that maybe we should leave them actually in code, because we never know when somebody decertifies, or if, for example, the supervisors just want to organize. So there's other parts in here where unfair labor practices are covered. They come to you for an unfair labor practice, and all of that. And then, of course, whenever they're going into mediation, they come to you for guidance on that. So there's a lot of things that I haven't even read through this, but Dee Ennis is planning to update this. But she wanted me to combine the regulations, and Barbara can correct me because she was at the meeting if I touched on anything wrong. She says if you have any comments, you can certainly provide her comments by looking through it. But she thinks most of this is stuff that you probably won't have to do most of the time, because we're kind of established in the city. But if you have any suggestions or anything that you would like to change, that would be helpful, that you can provide her comment. Now, we will also have to talk to the bargaining units about this, because they have a vested interest in any changes that we do make to this.
So this is the old way, and you are working on the proposed?
Yes, Dee Ennis is with the legal department. I am not actually working on this.
Okay.
I'm doing the other changes to the drug policies and the actual personnel of those changes, which are under 330, AMC 330.
So the one thing that I would just add to this, it's always good when we take regulations and move them into the code. I think we're all familiar with state regulations or federal regulations where there's a comment period, and the divisions or departments who are the experts in the areas are authorized to interpret the statute or the federal code and draft regulations to implement it. Well, that doesn't happen with the city. With the city, what happens is the assembly approves code and the assembly approves regulations. So it just doesn't make sense for us to have both. And as Jill Ann said, oftentimes what happens is they conflict. So, the code says, do an investigation, and the regulation says something slightly different. And so there's just no reason for that kind of duplication or inconsistency. So I think that it's really a good idea that Dee is taking this on. The one other comment that I was going to make that we had in our discussion that was really a good comment was, well, look, the board just approved having these 2 bargaining units go to mediation. Can we add that to your duties? Because that just sort of makes sense. If they failed and they want to go to mediation, why shouldn't this board be authorized to approve that if they want to go to an outside mediator? So those were a couple of ideas that we had. And then, since I expect Dee will be bringing a new document to you. I think it might be helpful to review this, but I think you can save your detailed review and
Yeah.
see what she brings to you. I wouldn't spend a lot of time
That
on
way you
this.
can
right?
review
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's best to see what she's doing and then
Right,
review it. And then-
before and after.
I just wanted to give you something so you can look at it, so you can kind of see what the board does.
Which would have precedence, regulations or code?
I believe.
Well, code is typically going to have precedence, and you know, but that is a dilemma. The assembly passed them both, so but code does have precedence over regulations.
Okay.
It is, so we're trying to make it less confusing,
Yes.
and naturally we will talk to the bargaining units. We won't do this where we just show up at the assembly with our changes.
So, just kind of clarify, Ty's question is the idea to move from one to the other? And so, to move more into regulation or more into
More
code?
into code.
More into code.
Okay, so then you don't have, so since the
Yeah.
assembly's approving it anyway?
Yeah.
You're just,
Right.
okay.
Wherever
That
it
makes sense.
fits.
Yes.
More if it's best.
Wait,
Well, no
Yeah.
reason to develop a second layer that's got a
Mhm.
different label for no reason at all if they're gonna vote on all of it, right?
You know, there's, Amy knows this because she handles records in our office. So, you know, people call up and we say, it's $40 an hour for research. And somebody says, how do you know that? Where is that? And you know, you look in the records code and you say, I know that it says $40 for research. It's in the regulations. And so you think you know this and you're looking for it, you just forget it's in the regulations.
Which book it's in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to make it easier and basically combine them and update and take out what we need to and put it all in the code. And then there might be some things that we can take out and do by policy, but we'll see where that lands. Because I'm going to leave it up to her. She's the expert on it.
How did we develop two different books of code versus regulations?
Really, I don't really know that answer.
I think most, you know, I started working for the Equal Rights Commission about 17 and a half years ago, and they had code and regulations, and we moved those into all code. There's no regulations any longer. I worked in the Ombudsman's office. The Ombudsman still has regulations, but we're in the process of eliminating those and moving those into code. There's a draft proposed for that. So I do not know how old that is. I do know that when Dennis Wheeler was, I worked with Dennis when he was the deputy municipal attorney, and that's when he recommended not having regulations. So it's been at least 10 years that Dennis has been making this recommendation to gradually get rid of these regulations.
Trim it out.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because they're both okayed by the assembly.
Mhm. So if you're doing a search online,
Oh, yeah. I was doing a search just in our code, and it was hard for me to find it today.
right, it doesn't, you know, you search the charter, you search the code, or you search the regulations. You don't get to do one search that, you know, I suppose you could do a broader search, but anyway, I think that makes it harder for the public too.
Right.
And I think with this board, a lot of the work that I know the unions have been very resistant for a long time to come to the board, but if they do come to the board, it will more than likely be for an unfair labor practice, and of course, if they have to go to mediation because of because they've reached impasse, or not total impasse, but where they can't seem to agree, and the next step is to go to mediation and fact finding, or when somebody's disputing if a position should be in the collective bargaining which collective bargaining unit should it be in. You might get unions where they argue with each other saying, oh, no, it's supposed to be in my union. And the other union's going, no, it's supposed to be in my union. And then they come here and this board will decide. Or you might get a conflict with the city where the union says that position really does fall into the union, and the city will say, no, this is a non-represented position, it should be non-represented. So that's probably where you'll see a lot of your work.
So can I run with that, and can we talk about staffing a little bit?
Sure.
Because I think that kind of relates to that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Employee Relations Department has staffed this board, and that's why the meetings are in the Employee Relations Department conference room.
Is that what it's?
Is that what it said?
I don't know. It just
Yeah.
said in the conference room.
True, right. And so Dee Ennis, the deputy municipal attorney, is the one that approached me and asked if the clerk's office would consider assisting with staffing the board. And I would like to think she asked because we do such a good job. Thank you very much, Amy.
They do.
But also, I think it's part of what Joanne said is that, you know, the municipality wants to elevate the board and eliminate some of that mistrust that might have happened with the unions, where you know, they're staffing the board and appearing before the board. And so we think with the clerk's office, and you know, we work for the assembly, we don't work for the administration, so we think that the assembly will be happy to have this happen, and that they'll be more interested in making this more neutral.
So that change will have to be supported by your change in some kind of regulation.
Well, we could not find that in code that the Employee Relations Department is the staff to the board. So this might be just an internal where the chair of the assembly, Barbara, consults with the chair and the co-chair, and they say, yes, we're going to allow staff to staff the board. But we thought it might, we think in this case it looks, it may not look good to have the employee relations staff, me, not me, but somebody, and then I present a case and then come to you with that case on behalf of the municipality.
Yeah, somehow.
You're
It's
sitting
not
in
a-
there,
it's
sitting
not
in
a
there
far
twice.
stretch, is it?
Yeah, so we appreciate that the clerk is willing to help us out with that. And this is not it can't, I suppose it could get busy if they start filing, and then, but we don't see it to be a real busy.
So, dying to know, when was the last time the board was staffed, and what happened to those people?
I don't know when it was last staffed, but what happened, the reason why we figured out the board wasn't staffed was that with the change in administration, but we actually got an unfair labor practice filed, and we were like, whoa, who's on the board? So that's when we realized. So, but they withdrew it, and that's why you don't have it before you. But we decided we had to constitute this board quickly. So, but I think it has been a while, and I just know from my history that there's a point where the unions just really didn't want to go to the board.
So is there a record-keeping area where there are previous decisions and meeting minutes and
I could
actions?
ask. I could ask if we have minutes.
Is there a library that supports the
That
board?
should be interesting. I don't know. I can ask about that and
Alright.
see if we have any old minutes or
Well, I mean, I
records
think,
anywhere.
you know.
It's been, I know that
Past
they had it
precedents.
staffed.
Yeah.
I
it's-
just don't know when the last, I know it was staffed at one point.
I mean, it'd be particularly helpful to know if there's a body of essentially case law that's been generated by this board over the years that we can kind of go back and
Glean from.
look at and say, oh, you know what, that looks like it's something that the parties have always done it this way, and we shouldn't disturb that, or maybe there's some inequity, or whatever. I mean, being able to find that kind of stuff is pretty helpful.
Yeah, for setting precedents and
Yeah, and just
being
you
able
know,
not to
I could ask.
disturb.
I do not know the answer.
Okay. Because I think, you
Great
know,
question.
bargaining units do change. It may be slow, but probably, I'm assuming a board like this probably in some way or another made unit clarifications or determinations over time.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so then you kind of have to say, okay, well, how did they reach the idea that this little group of 20 people actually constituted a community of interest that needed to be represented, that had certain, working conditions and other things in common? And how did they say, oh, but they didn't go with those because there's these differences? It's always helpful to know how some other reasonable people got there, because you don't want to accidentally disturb things that don't need to be bothered. And if you can't find that history, you're like, wow, this makes sense to me. Let's do it that way.
Amy assists with staffing the Board of Ethics and also the Salaries and Emoluments Commission. And so we have web pages for those board and commissions. The Salaries and Emoluments isn't up right now. But the Salaries and Emoluments has probably about 10 resolutions or so. And so those resolutions are on their unpublished page. So, and it's interesting because Employee Relations is the one that needs those resolutions. And instead of having them call me every year to find out, it's just available online. And then the Board of Ethics opinions, their advisory opinions, are available online. So we could do something similar to that. We could set up a web page and then have just make some PDFs of some of the opinions. You could either do them all if there's not too many, or just some selected opinions if you wanted to.
How big the body of work
Yeah.
is.
Right.
And I would imagine if a case were to come before you, that both parties may provide you with
Past precedent.
probably some past, their version of the past. In some way, shape, or form.
So another question is just what kind of resourcing is there? Is there a budget you all have set aside for different activities, or? I'm sure you all heard the mayor's presentation. There's no money. We're all doing more with less. This is an extra assignment for Amy and I. We're fitting it in with our other duties. We have no budget, so it's, and I'm sure you don't either.
No, everything we wanted in the budget didn't get in the budget.
That's okay. It's important. It's just important for us to know that, so that we can adjust our expectations.
Well, and if there's some type of legal question, it could be that we may have to do something about that. If there's a legal question that this board ends up having, we may have to, talk to law and find a budget for there to be a consulting attorney for you if we need it.
There's somebody to bounce the ideas off of. It could be free from them too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There you go.
We're all pitching in together,
Yeah, there you
right?
go. I think that's a very good sentiment.
We'll see how long there's no budget. We'll bring a lot downstairs.
Well, and typically, Jillian is right though that I will tell you that years ago at the different departments budgeted for hearing officers or for legal services. But we don't do that anymore. We don't budget for contingencies anymore.
Okay.
Because there are basically those contingencies just end up being, slush funds.
Right.
And so they're all gone. If you need legal services, you ask the assembly for an appropriation.
Okay.
So that's
good
pretty
to know.
much the way it works.
Yep.
Well, I think, maybe we get together next, maybe we ought to talk about resource things. I'm not expecting that we would get money out of a turnip, but, what kinds of things do we think we would need to be
Effective.
Whether that's information resources, that kind of thing. I spoke with a couple of previous members of this board from many, many years ago. And I don't think the resources were any different back then. It was
Probably not.
the same. And I think what we'll find, if we can find their previous decisions, is the board pretty much wrote its own decisions in the past.
Mm-hmm.
They relied on the labor relations experience and expertise of their members, and just kind of went from there. Which I think is a fine thing to do, as long as we kind of know where the limits are there. So, yeah.
And hopefully the briefings of the parties.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure that both parties would show up with some type of briefing.
And cookies.
Well, I think that's a good one, and we can add that to the agenda for the next meeting, is the library of materials.
Yeah, I
Right.
wrote
I
this
know.
down.
We'll
Yeah.
look into that.
Yeah.
I wrote it down to see if there is a library of materials.
File cabinet.
Yeah, there's going to be something dusty someplace.
Or hopefully electronic.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Yeah, it would be premium, but
Mhm.
I'm sure we might end up with handwritten notes just as well.
Do you all, do any other of the boards or commissions guys use, like GoToMeeting or any of those kind of tools to get rid of the ring binders?
Go to meeting. You mean?
Well, I mean, so that when I first went to Chugach, every board meeting would come with a binder about 3 times this size,
Mm-hmm.
and there would be 2 to 3 board meetings a month. We hired one of the local computer consultant groups to design our own version of GoToMeeting, and so now every meeting is just the documents are scanned in once, and they show up on your iPad or your laptop or whatever device you'd like to use. And board members don't pack around all this paper, and it's less copying, and we estimate that we probably saved, I don't know, about $80,000 just the first year. So
Impressive.
I don't know if the city does that kind of stuff.
Well, typically what happens is the clerk's office sends out an email the week before the meeting
Sure.
with the electronic documents.
Okay.
And then if most board members leave their binders here, and then Amy collects them, and then so if you want to just take a quick gander here, she's got your appointments and then attendance, which she will update. She has an orientation packet in here. Did we go through this last time?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
we went through this last time. So I think the most important thing for Pat and Tyler, I know Tyler, where you were on the phone, is I just love these rules, Robert's rules for small boards. And Ty practiced it tonight. You know, the chair can make a motion, and it just moves small boards on. So that is in there. So your current meeting packet, you know, she's got your agenda and then the minutes, right? And then, so she is going to provide all this to you electronically. The one thing that if you do, like for example, the Board of Ethics, they'll meet, discuss a topic, somebody takes notes, then they give their book back to Amy, and then when they get it back, oh, phew, I've still got my notes here. So, especially when we get into working on the code rewrite. So that is up to you. If you want to give your packets to leave your binders here, then Amy will update them and you won't have to tote them around. You will have to take your little section of regulations if you want to review that.
I'd like to take mine this time, but then after that,
Okay.
I'd be happy to leave it. And I need to ask a couple questions. Let's see, that was under 4, I think. I was filling out my, where was my form?
Oh, 16.
Oh, I've got it,
Yeah.
okay. Where it says date of confirmed, I don't know when I was confirmed for the salary and emoluments. I just told I was on it.
5/24/16.
Okay.
You were all appointed at the same meeting. No, this is
And
for
the term
evaluation.
ending is,
Your term, Pat, your term expires 10/14/17. So Amy's got that information under membership, under the membership tab.
oh, she does?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
Nope,
didn't.
that's all right.
That one, right there.
Okay,
And
thank you.
she's got the assembly memorandum right behind there, so you can see which.
All right,
That's helpful for us, so then when it's time to reappoint, we.
sure. And the other question I have is on these boxes here, do I initial them or mark them or what?
You can just X them or check them. You don't need to initial them.
Okay.
Or whichever one you choose.
I don't, neither one of them fit me,
Right.
so I can leave them blank?
You want to check one. So the idea is that you have no personal or financial interests other than those of the general public. So the idea is that you want to check number one or X number one. If you do have financial interests,
Yeah, I don't.
then you have to list those. And then you'd be recused from anything that came up.
Okay,
on
thank you.
those. You're welcome. And that goes before the Board of Ethics, so the Board of Ethics will accept those.
Thank you.
Is there any further questions or comments for the personal rule changes, proposed changes to the Employee Relations Board? Excellent. Do we have any member comments other than to request for possible records of previous boards?
Nice to meet everybody in person.
Yeah.
Do we need to schedule another meeting, or are we good about that?
We may want to schedule another meeting. How would we like to do that? How much time do we want to give Dee? It's October, middle October.
I don't know if we want to give her 30 or 60 days.
So we could go to either the middle of November or to the middle of December.
Yeah, I don't know what her timeline is.
Mhm.
Maybe we should wait till we go to the middle of December. And unless we get some filing or something for something else, I think you can, probably will give her 2 months or to see if she has something started.
And then we could ask her if she could email that to everybody the week before the meeting. So, what would that look like?
So the 12th and 13th of December is either a Monday or Tuesday.
Is this a good day? This is a Wednesday at 4 to 5? Is that helpful for you? Or,
I will not be here in the month of December and January.
oh, okay, maybe we should go to November then. I don't think she'll be done.
I don't think she'll be done.
Okay.
I'm
So-
just worried I don't want you to show up and then you just show up and there's...
We could have a proposed meeting, at least tentatively scheduled for the 30th of November, which is a Wednesday. And then if there's nothing on the 21st, 22nd, the week prior, before Thanksgiving, she's not going to get anything done. And that meeting can be canceled.
So Wednesdays are rough for me, because that's my Chugach board meeting.
Okay?
So I would propose the 1st of December would work.
Or
Pat,
the
what
or
do you
the
believe?
29th?
I'm actually leaving the 20th of November, but I figured that was close enough to Thanksgiving that nothing would be happening.
Oh.
Maybe we should push it to January.
Okay.
When do you get back?
February.
Oh,
Well, we could push it to February, and then if we get a petition of some sort, like a unfair labor practice or maybe something going on with this plumbers, we can always schedule one.
And
when do you get back in February, Pat?
I should get back February 7th.
So that So the 15th?
Oh,
That's a Wednesday, so is a
The
Thursday,
Wednesday-
is a Thursday better for you?
15th of November?
15th of
February.
We're
February.
gonna do it all the way to
Oh,
February now.
That'll work.
So the 16th, Thursday, the 16th of February from
That
4 to
works too.
5? Okay.
15 or 16 work out.
Oh, okay, you don't have a Chugach
I don't have
board
board
meeting on
meeting every
19th.
month,
Oh,
every week.
okay, got it, sorry.
Okay, let's see, you got the 15th, did you say?
Well, I'm gonna suggest the 16th because
I'd like 16.
then we don't run into problems with his board meetings.
Just in
Because
case.
now I'm looking at, I probably haven't scheduled next year's board meetings.
Okay,
So that's why I'm not seeing one there, because I haven't gotten that raft of invitations that come.
So for the really clear crystal ball, we'll make the proposal of the 16th, February 16th.
February 16th at 4 p.m.
Okay. Is there any, seeing as there is no audience participation for today, I make the motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.